Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, episode 137 today for the Canadian Grand Prix in Season 8. If you guys did miss the previous one, a very topsy-turvy Grand Prix at Baku, then be sure to go check the one out. It's not often that we have such a disappointing race, I guess. I mean, it was a really tough one, obviously, a monumental rain around Azerbaijan, and to be fair, a lot of drivers did get quite unlucky. Schumacher, Leclerc, a lot of people got caught out with the safety car, the tyre wear that was there on the intermediates, and just general, well, for me, it was drivability of the car coming a cropper just after having a very good stint where, we gained the lead, the championship in both senses, in the drivers and the constructors, and maybe there was a sense of, we've got on top of the car already, but as I said at the start of the episode, I didn't think so, and a tough race where it was raining all weekend really did kind of hammer that point home, and so in our second place in the championship, Lando Norris came through, to be fair, a little bit lucky with his safety car and kind of the pit stop he made earlier than everyone else, but he came through for the win and took the lead of the championship, so he now leads us by a few points there. Ocon close behind in third, Schumacher still sitting there in the top 5 behind Albon, surprisingly, and I said it before, I say it again, I actually don't know how Albon has got up there. He's kind of been under the radar, just getting some very consistent results, to be fair to him, so fair play. But we now come through to Montreal, the Canadian Grand Prix, one of my favourite circuits on the F1 game and F1 in general. And we've had some pretty exciting Canadian Grand Prix as we've gone through this series. Last season was a crazy one with just a very weird crash with Verstappen, remember, on the back straight, just kind of lost the control of the car in a straight line in the dry. So let's see what this season has in store, but hoping to bounce back strong. We've got a dry Saturday, but there is rain forecast for this race weekend on the Sunday. Thankfully, it doesn't look like it's going to be all race, so that will just, maybe be a little spanner in the works at the start of the Grand Prix, but it should be all dry here and sunny for Saturday on quali. So trying to get through, obviously, the sessions. Q1 a lot less dramatic than it was at Baku in terms of running out of time nearly or whatnot, and the car is actually, well, looking really strong initially. Myself and Schumacher 1 and 2 in Q1, but obviously that doesn't really mean too much because there's been so many times where I've been in P14 in Q1 and then in Q2 and Q3 where it kind of matters more, we're right up there. So Q1, just a session just to get through, really, when you're a team like us and, our rivals as well. But I think, actually, surprisingly, George Russell got knocked out in that Q1, which was a big surprise because his teammate Latifi got through, and usually he has a massive advantage on his Canadian teammate. So, disappointing day for our fellow Brit, but we move through now into the second part of qualifying. Again, really for us, just trying to get through into the top 10 shootout. I'd be very annoyed and disappointed if we did not make it through into the top 10. And lo and behold, at the end of the session, I almost want to say, this is the kind of 10 drivers I thought would make it through. Maybe you can throw in, surprise that Albon's right up there in P2 with his teammate knocked out in P11, and his Sainz being out, not being able to match Lando Norris is maybe surprising. But the rest of them, I really thought would make it through. Both Mercedes cars just about with Gasly there, both Ferraris, because Ferrari have looked better recently, despite their kind of poor luck maybe, both McLarens, and then obviously myself and Schumacher. So a very kind of, if there was going to be a kind of pecking order and a kind of, top 10, a kind of stapled on top 10 in the season so far, this is the top 10. I kind of feel like you've been seeing a pattern that's been doing well enough to kind of warrant getting into the Q3 session. So our first flying lap then coming around to end it on the far right to get the shortest run to the line across it. I think that's the fastest time we've done so far of the Saturday, going so fast I actually missed my brake point into turn 1 on the subsequent in-lap then, but it's only good enough for P6 there. We're behind Gasly and Albon, Verstappen, Giovinazzi behind us right now, but we're on the second run. It's the end of qualifying. The checkered flag's already fallen, so this is it then. We're only 1.5 tenths up as well, so this is worrying times, and Schumacher has put in his time. I think that's his second time, and he's only right behind us in P8, so is this where the car is? Where is the pace gone? We were 1 and 2 in Q1, and by the end of this lap, we actually lose time in the last few corners, and we don't actually improve our lap time, and so we end up in P7. Now, whether that is going to be a lucky number P7 for me with my race number, who knows, but where is the pace gone then from Q1? It just shows, as I said, it's, it doesn't matter at all what you do in Q1, and that is absolutely baffling. And Lando Norris has got pole position by nearly 5.5 or over 5.5 tenths to Leclerc in the Ferrari in second place. Hamilton and Ocon share the second row. Hamilton out qualifying Ocon, and then Giovinazzi way down in P10 with his teammate way up there. You know, massive difference there as well. Same for Verstappen and Gasly. Verstappen unable to finally match Gasly where it really matters in the final part of qualifying. But for me and Mick, we're sharing a row, and so that seems to be where the car is. And so I'm more mystified at where that pace has gone. And so just showing again that, you know, we may, you know, have got like a little bit lucky in the last few races, you know, got some, you know, got the 1-2 at Monaco, got some good points, but genuinely there is still a lot of work to do as a team with where this car is. And really for this one, it's really just more of a head scratcher of where that pace went in Q1. Just everyone else sped up really, whilst we didn't. And tomorrow, well, we've got some rain to kick off the race maybe, so that's going to be also interesting on top of that. So we've got a bit of work to do. Hopefully the race pace is there, and maybe when we get to the dry part of the race, that's where we can get in our groove, as I really love Canada here in the dry usually. So let's go to the grid and see how we do.
Hello and welcome to the Ile Notre Dame once again for what promises to be another incredible Canadian Grand Prix at a fiercely competitive circuit, where pole position can often be decided by less than 1/10 of a second. It's a tricky circuit to tackle in wet conditions, with top speed still of critical importance down the long back straight. There are 2.7 miles and 14 corners overall on a circuit that in the dry can see average lap speeds of around 130 miles per hour. We'll be lucky to get anywhere near that today. Joining us today to oversee all the thrills and spills, it's Anthony Davidson. And great to see you. How are you feeling about the race today, and how are the circuit conditions from what you've seen?
Well, the surface looks clean enough, but I'm a little bit worried about the track temperature. It's pretty cool out there, which could give some teams difficulties when it comes to keeping their tyres in the right operating window. The cars out there that work their tyres hard and really put a lot of energy through them, they'll be the ones that are better off.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Ocon, Albon, Pierre Gasly, and the owner driver, Schumacher, Verstappen, Giovinazzi, and Lance Stroll, De Vries, Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, and Bottas, Latifi, Kvyat, Nobuharu Matsushita, and Guan Yu Zhou, Magnussen, Russell, Giotto, and Jack Aitken. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head to trackside for today's race.
So more bad luck then for Ferrari and Leclerc, as he is handed a 10-place penalty for changing components at the start of this Grand Prix, so he loses that front row start. It'll be Lando and I believe actually Hamilton in second, maybe then in the McLaren. So we're now going to be starting in P6, then the row ahead of Schumacher and alongside Pierre Gasly then, but you can clearly see we've got the green wall intermediate tyres out. The weather forecast for the session, you can see it is going to get to dry and actually sunny towards the end of this race, so that's a guarantee that we will have a dry period. It's just about how long this inter period is, and then also trying to make sure we try and perfect that crossover from inters to dries. And then also there's the question mark on top of that of then what we're doing on dries. You know, is there going to be enough tire life, you know, on whatever tire we choose? Mediums, will it be 2 sets of mediums, will it be 1 set of hards? I'm not really too sure. We're gonna have to do a lot of thinking on the fly, I think, in this race in terms of the strategy. But we'll lower the fuel as per usual and just hope that we just don't have the same sort of dismal pace that we had at Baku around here. It's a very different circuit, but you know, the intermediates are in the intermediates. They're a very tricky condition on this game. But here we go then. So 5 red lights, the Canadian Grand Prix. P6 on the grid, lights are out, and we are very much not on the way. That is a horrendous getaway. One of the worst starts we've had in a career mode in ages, as we've been swamped and overtaken by 3-4 cars. We're down to P10. It's 3 wide up the road between, I think, Giovinazzi, Schumacher, and Alexander Albon in the Racing Point car. We're side by side with Leclerc, the man who had a 10-place penalty from P2. We shoot it down the inside of De Vries in the AlphaTauri to try and re-overtake him, but then a bit of contact made on the rear, drifting round opposite lock, having to soar away at the steering wheel just to keep the thing in a straight line. We dive it back down the inside, maybe? No, not quite. De Vries chops us off, and the AlphaTauri's got us, and he's up into P9, but that was a horrendous getaway. There was just no oomph on the revs. The revs just dropped. We almost are actually surprised we didn't hit anti-stall, because it seemed like the revs went down to 4,000 for a brief moment there. So could have easily anti-stalled. That would have been even worse disaster, because that would have fully slowed us down, and we would just not got off the line there. But it's a good start from Schumacher then, as he's jumped Giovinazzi, and up the road though, it's Lando Norris that leads the way. It's a McLaren 2-3, Gasly in P4, and Verstappen, the other Mercedes cars, past us. So all round really good start from a lot of different people apart from me. But we get past the Prix in a straight line, showing the pace we have with the Honda in the back of our car, and just generally the speed we have in a straight line with this car versus others. And we're up into P9. Can we get past Verstappen now, showing some good pace now? Lap number 2, 2 green sectors down the inside we go. Oh, bit of contact made with Verstappen as we misjudged the line. We're both taking the race in the brake zone, and Verstappen actually gets back past us. He slows us right down. Not ideal for either of us there, because we pretty much slowed ourselves down by about half a second into the wall of champions. And as we're taking it very, very aggressively into turn 1 to outbrake Verstappen, made some contact with him even as we kind of got the elbows out to shove him off out the way. But we're up into P8 then, and now we're in some clean air trying to catch up to Giovinazzi, who's on the tail end of a train of Schumacher and Albon. We set the fast up of the Grand Prix, so on lap 5 we've finally got our feet into this Grand Prix thing and finding a rhythm in these intermediate conditions that are rapidly drying down towards a fully dry track, remember, later on in this Grand Prix. But at this point then, still thinking back to that race on how shocking that was, that just did not help us at all. Schumacher's in P6 right now. You know, with that kind of getaway, we could have been up into P4 if we had the same start that he did, as we now have a little look on the outside of Giovinazzi. That was at the end of lap 6 onto 7, but he placed his car really well, the Italian did, on the inside, and actually kind of forced me to lock up a little bit, and we now have to kind of go again and recompose. But speaking of composure, Lando Norris has lost all composure in the lead of this race. Later on, this is a lap or 2 later, and you can see how dry the track is now, and everyone's losing it. We've lost it. We've locked up. We take to the escape road and go on the left-hand side of the little bollard sign there, and we have to give back the position to Giovinazzi. But Norris nearly lost the lead of the Grand Prix. Don't think he has, but the track is looking really dry, and you just saw we confirmed on the bottom right we're going to pit in on this lap. 2 sets of mediums that our engineer suggested to us, which seems about right. You know, we're only like 8 laps, and it is quite early doors, and we've still got a good 2/3 of this Grand Prix to go. So 2 sets of mediums hopefully takes us through to the end. Ocon continues on then, Schumacher is in, and we come in, because I weighed up there on that back straight essentially. You know, either we stay out on these inters. You saw we already went off once and locked up because of the lack of grip with these intermediates, or we do this, we do the double stack, and this looks painful. It feels painful right now, but I think honestly we would have an even worse time staying out. Ocon has, but he's an AI, you know, he has perfect throttle and whatnot. So we have lost positions. We're down to P15. We're behind Sainz, Latifi, both Alfa Romeos, I think, of George Russell as well, and Verstappen once again. But I honestly think if we did what Leclerc is doing right now, I mean, look how slow he is. Ocon actually looks pretty quick, but look how slow Leclerc is as he holds up Lando and Lewis Hamilton. They're both on medium tyres. They're going to make it 3 wide. Hamilton round the outside. Leclerc's getting pinched in a little bit. He defends the position against the McLaren. Oh, Sainz! Sainz in the wall, out the pit lane. It's the limit damp out here on circuit. Of course, the rain's not fully dried away, and Sainz has lost the back end and slammed into the wall, and his car rolled across circuit. So because of that, the full course safety car has been called out. And look at this then, a little bit further down the road, Ocon is now in for that first pit stop onto dry tyres, and surely now under the safety car, he's just gained a massive advantage. So how lucky is Esteban Ocon here? How unlucky is Lando Norris in the Red Bull? He was leading the race, obviously made the mistake into the hairpin, but he still had the lead when he made the pit stop. But now let's wait and see, where is Ocon? There you go on the right, just coming out of short, and Ocon is look how close that is. That is going to be unbelievably annoying for the Brit in the Red Bull, and the safety car is there, and Ocon has jumped Lando Norris. Ocon is into the lead, Hamilton in third there, and Lando is in a McLaren sandwich of 1 and 3 as we're now in P11, having other people made some pit stops. So we're now in an Alfa Romeo sandwich. Latifi is actually the lead Alfa Romeo here. Remember, as Russell got knocked out in Q1, so Russell is behind me in P12 as we get a fantastic screen freeze. Lovely stuff into the last corner as we go on the restart here. And to be fair, he didn't miss much apart from me kind of misjudging when Latifi was going. Very hard to kind of judge here at Canada when you should go, because you can't actually overtake anymore into the final corner. corner, you can only overtake at the start-finish line, unlike it used to be the safety car line. So having to still overtake Latifi then later on in this lap, then we've still got plenty of this race to go. You know, lap 12, we're on kind of semi-fresh mediums, obviously having pit just before the safety car period, so still a long way and places to gain, but into the hairpin, Latifi! Oh, what the hell is going on in this race? What is going on? Absolute chaos. We almost hit the back of the Alfa Romeo. We have to take avoiding action onto the grass, and if you actually look close enough, we were actually inches away from breaking our front left wheel or front wing on the wall because we had so much momentum coming in, but I don't know what that was. There was a massive domino effect, basically, of everyone slowing each other up into the hairpin, and we just came at, you know, a normal pace. I started braking where I thought you normally would for the hairpin, but everyone was so slow holding each other up in the hairpin that we nearly completely slammed into the back of the Canadian. So we're now down to P13, had to do some avoiding action, much like Lewis Hamilton had to do at the Azerbaijan real-life Grand Prix, you know, just going off on the slip road and taking a massive U-turn and coming back on circuit. But now we send one down the inside of Danica Fiat in the Alpine car up into P12, looking at the back of Latifi now in the same place. We had to take avoiding action. This time we dive down the inside, and that was literally the worst time for a screen freeze. Thank you very much, my PC and the game. What happened there was, I basically made a kamikaze dive. We made it work, didn't actually make any contact with him. It was actually a really nice move. So that's unfortunate, you didn't see that, but up the road, Verstappen v AlphaTauri, and that Mercedes, you know, he's getting swamped. Verstappen is really not liking the Mercedes car in this final season of this career mode, is he? As it's 3 wide into turn 1. Oh my days, we're seeing some absolute great action. Latifi's down my inside. How is he doing that then? And the Canadian's got me. What is going on in this race? The Canadian's fully re-overtaken me. We go back round the outside of him there. The AlphaTauri's slow, having to lock up a bit to try and slow ourselves down. We've got De Vries though, but that was awesome. We saw a 3 wide move from all AI cars. That was awesome. And now we've got Russell v Verstappen. Verstappen very much holding up Russell here, so we're going to use that to our advantage and try and overtake George before he gets the chance to overtake Verstappen up the road. And we've got DRS open, ERS is being deployed, and we've got rich mix flowing, something I won't be able to say on the next game on F1 2021 is, oh, Russell nearly clips the back of Verstappen and slows himself down into the chicane. Exit, poor one, onto lap number 17 on the inside then, and it's a big dive. We just about slow down the car and rotate it through the left-hander with a big old lock up on the front left, and we're up into P9, and we're going to get straight on the back of Verstappen, and he is an absolutely sitting duck without DRS and no one ahead of him to help him out, and we're up into P8, and we're going to use that clean air to good effect, push away from Verstappen, and we're going to try and push after, and we're also going to confirm to our team we're going to accept that earlier pit stop of lap 21, because I'm feeling like the undercut could be very decent around here. So here we are coming in lap 21 at the same time as Gasly and Albon. Leclerc and Schumacher continue on. Interesting there, but we actually did catch up to that train of the Ferrari and our teammate Schumacher. There was maybe about a second in there left, so I'm hoping that this undercut can help us erode that, and we'll be right there with them. And so that's a good, you know, 4 or 5 positions up for grabs. So we're going to try and turn this around from the lower end points in some pretty decent halfway points. You know, the podium is out of the question. The 2 McLarens and the Red Bull of Lando Norris have that booked in, but can we try and get some decent high points there? Let's see. We've still got plenty of this race to go, but it's been a pretty poor exit as we just about weren't able to pull off that move on Magnussen. So we have to actually try and overtake the Haas later in the lap, and you're going to see that's going to slow us up a little bit. You know, you don't realize how much these cars can slow you up, but into this next corner, just watch on, you know, where Albon is 1.4, and now just in one corner alone, Albon has gained nearly 3/10 there, just by Magnussen slowing us up into the brakes and the exit. And remember, we're not just racing Albon, we're racing Leclerc and Schumacher, who continued on for one more lap. We go down the inside then of the Haas up into P13, and then here we go, lap 23 into turn 1, and there comes Leclerc around the outside, and Albon was overtaking the Alpine at the same time, and now Leclerc will go around the outside of the Alpine car, but he's going to be slow into the chicane. Can we use this to our advantage? They make contact, and the Alpine's got some damage, I think. Does Leclerc have any? Not too sure. Don't think so, unfortunately for us. I think he actually came off unscathed, but we were so close there to maybe making the double overtaking, getting a cheeky one on the Ferrari man. And meanwhile, up the road, well, Schumacher did not pit yet. He's still going on, and we've also got Hamilton as well, continuing maybe. Surely they're going to come in on this lap. No, Hamilton does not come in on this lap then. Will Schumacher come in? No, he doesn't. So both Schumacher and Hamilton yet to pit in this race. Behind them is Ocon, who has pit. He is pit. So maybe Hamilton and Schumacher, are they going for an aggressive two-stop here with the soft compound tyre? Maybe so. Latifi yet to pit as well. Ocon has. Verstappen, no. Lando has. So he's coming up to some traffic effectively in the form of Verstappen there. Gasly's pit. He's on mediums. The same obviously for Albon and Leclerc. So yeah, I wonder if Hamilton and Schumacher and Latifi, they're trying something different. They're going on to soft compound tyre. Maybe they may as well try something different maybe. But right now we do have the overwhelming pace and the undercut will work. I think we should come out ahead of Mick as we've got two purple sectors here. A little bit understeery into the last chicane there. But onto lap 25, 10 laps to go. And we set a purple lap time and we will overtake Schumacher. And we're having a look at Leclerc, who's being held up a little bit by Albon here. And we're almost pushing the Ferrari through turns 2. Can we go into turn 3? Maybe on the outside he goes defensive, but he's going to give us some space to work with. Bit of contact made. Leclerc hits the wall. Leclerc comes across us. And we've had an absolute disaster here at Canada. 2 races in a row. This may be no points finishes for us because we've broken our wing. Leclerc is completely out of this Grand Prix. He hit the wall so hard on the right in the same place where Sainz went out that he's actually out of the Grand Prix. And then it was so unlucky for him to spew left across the circuit, back across it, and to take our front wing out. So we're going to have to pit because that's a red bit of front wing damage. But we go around the outside. Here's a replay then. It was very fine in terms of space for me to go, but I went for it, and maybe that's the mistake there. And Leclerc hits the wall. It's the right rear that came off, so that's why that kind of took his rear end, it spun it out left and made him come across left onto the other side of the circuit to take me out then. So let's look at a replay now, back on board. So we go around the outside. He goes defensive, so he's actually, defending from me. That there was maybe the mistake I made, and then that's just a racing incident of Leclerc can't control the car. At that point, his tyre's gone. But at this moment in time, I've gone quite wide. Leclerc has gone defensive, but you can see he is kind of key. He's turning tightly to give me some space, so I went for it. At this point, you see the gap is closing, so in hindsight, at this very moment, definitely probably should have pulled out of the move, but we kept our foot in there. We make a little bit of contact you're about to see with the side pod. It's not actually that much of contact, but it's enough to just offset Leclerc wide, and I think on his onboard, he surely just swipes a little bit, but he's not really had to adjust too much apart from this point. Now here, I'm catching the car. Leclerc's catching the car, but he's hit the wall now at this point. His right rear is off, so he's got no control. So at this point, it's not his fault. The car just comes across. So it's just the initial bit of contact there definitely was my fault of just going in a little bit too hot, maybe just wanting to be a bit too desperate, trying to recover in this race. And that's it. I think that's the word for it, I think I've just thought of that now. That's the word for this race. Going on from what happened with Latifi to now a bit of desperation in this Grand Prix to, make it a good one off the back of such a horrendous one in Azerbaijan. And it's come back to bite me because we've had now 2 races in a row where we're not going to get any points here because we're on lap 26 now. We've got 6 laps to, we've got 9 laps to go in this Grand Prix. We're down in P17. Unless there's a safety car, I'm not going to catch up to points today. In the meanwhile, Schumacher, he gained 2 free positions then. He overtook me and Leclerc, as obviously I pit. Leclerc's out of the Grand Prix. Now Schumacher on the soft compound, remember, went longer on that medium stint, and Schumacher is using the soft compound to good use to overtake Alexander Albon, the Racing Point car. Russell close behind there on the medium tire, almost made it 3 wide into turn 1, but Schumacher makes a great overtake. Meanwhile, obviously in the lead was Ocon. He's still in the lead by a decent margin. And Lando Norris on the mediums, he's actually being caught by Hamilton. So could it be a 1-2 for McLaren by the end of this one? Let's see. There's still a fair few laps here for Hamilton to maybe make a move just like Mick did on the Racing Point car. And then Russell's looking like he might want to try and make a move on the Racing Point. The Racing Point's not looking too quick. Remember, Albon was backing Leclerc up into me. And there you can see, literally a lap or 2 later this is, Russell flies past him. So what a turnaround for George Russell. Knocked out in Q1 and he's here now, I think in P6 that is, right now running, because it's the top 3, then Gasly in P4, P5 is Schumacher, so yeah, P6, Russell, what a turnaround. Hamilton, though, unable to quite make a move. He's actually falling away a little bit now from Gasly, so maybe the tyre wear is kicking in a little bit for Hamilton, and maybe he's unable to make a move on Lando Norris. Meanwhile, back on our POV, lap 30, this is a pretty dismal sight. We overtake one Haas car, and we're going to go ahead and try and chase after the other Haas, but that's pretty much most of the overtakes I'm going to get this afternoon at the end of this race. So what a sorry sight this is. 2 races in a row we're going to be scoring 0 points, and well, last time out it was the rain. This time, like I said, yeah, just desperation. I think I definitely could have driven with a cooler head and a little bit less urgency, been a bit more patient. You know, ironically, ever since I talked about being more patient with my driving halfway through the Monaco episode, since then we've had spins at Monaco, erratic mistakes and just, you know, poor driving in Baku with the rain, and then we've had, you know, a myriad of mistakes here with Latifi, Leclerc. Definitely shouldn't have dived down the inside there. You know, can't blame anyone but myself for that. You know, it's a racing incident in terms of his car being across, like I said. So there you go. And actually, in the end of it, it's a poor day for the team at the end of it, because on towards the second last lap of the Grand Prix, that was, Russell overtook Schumacher. So what a double turnaround from George Russell. Esteban Ocon wins the Canadian Grand Prix with the help of the safety car and that pit stop, that free pit stop effectively. Lando Norris in second place. So 2 of my main rivals with a 1-2 there. Hamilton in third for McLaren. So a very good day in the office for one of our rival teams. We overtook Bottas on the last lap, but it's the only P4 team. We try to get the Alpine at the line, but it's no points. Nil points, doesn't matter. And Russell, what a turnaround. Q1 knockout to P5 on the road. Bit of a madness, and showing how it's done as he earns the driver of the day. But it's another one to forget. We need to turn this around.
A truly magnificent drive then, and a great performance from the entire team to secure victory here in Canada. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
It was a question of right place, right time today. We were looking at an entirely different race before the safety car came out, but they were able to take full advantage after the field had been bunched up.
Our drivers are making their way out for the podium celebrations, and it's going to be McLaren picking up the winner's trophy. Congratulations to the entire team for that fantastic performance.
So it's not a great start on the podium. Both McLarens up there, our main rival team in the Constructors' Championship, and then both Lando and Esteban Ocon there in a 1 and 2 formation. That's going to be a big blow in terms of points in the championship. And I think this may be the first time ever in this career mode series of ours in F1 2020 that I've had 2 non-scoring races in a row. We've obviously had our fair share of, you know, some bad luck here and there, DNF maybe, or, you know, a bad race where we don't score points, but 2 in a row, I think this is the first time that's happened, maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know, guys, if you remember any memory through this series of that happening before. But you know, obviously, I mean, with a competitive car, obviously, we've had, obviously, Season 4 with the bankruptcy, and obviously Season 1 where we weren't in a position to score points. But in a situation like this, where we've got a race-winning car at times, to score no points 2 times in a row is really, really poor. And it means, well, look at the championship now. Norris leads 2 points to Ocon, and then it's 22 points back to me. That is a large margin for a F1 game, My Team Career Mode Championship, especially a 16-race one, where we're now officially halfway through the season. We really do need to turn it around next race. I said that at the end of last episode, and it didn't happen for this one. We need to turn it around for next time, because we've also lost ground in the Constructors, because McLaren now lead the Constructors by 17 points, with obviously Schumacher also getting overtaken by Russell late on. So all round, yeah, just a very dismal race again for us. It was a really chaotic one, and we actually had some really nice moves and some good pace throughout, but just, yeah, those 2 mistakes with Latifi. You know, if we didn't, you know, have that incident with Latifi, maybe we wouldn't have been in the position we were in with Leclerc then. We might have been ahead of him by that point, but obviously you can say a lot of things in terms of that domino effect. And then with Leclerc, like I said, yeah, my fault for diving in, and then a racing incident with his car coming across the circuit. But guys, nonetheless, if you did enjoy that chaotic race, then be sure to hit that like button. Obviously, it makes it very exciting for the championship at least, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know in the comments below what you made of it. If you're new around here, do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.